Hi, Kim.
Hi.
It's great to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Yeah. How are you, generally speaking?
Are we going to talk about how I am in relationship to Zoom, or are we talking about in a broader perspective? Because they're two different answers.
Give me both.
Um,
I want to. I'm just like get all I can.
I'm okay. I'm having a particularly intense summer.
Are you?
Portia is really happy because this is her first time on the podcast.
Oh, it sure is.
You know, I've been here a couple of times, but
True.
It's her first appearance, so
That's
she's
true.
Ready to go.
And I've met her. We connected once. You know, and that was nice.
And she wants to be clear that she is having a red hot summer.
Oh, nice. Oh my gosh. New York's been good to her, huh?
Yeah. Same with Mars. Yeah.
Excellent. How's the Dolphins podcast going?
Well, we're waiting to hear from the Dolphins. We're hoping to start recording season 2 this fall. But honestly, since we left the Pacific Ocean, we haven't been contacted by the Dolphins. So we're waiting. We're hunkered down and waiting.
I guess let me ask you that, you know, the transition from West Coast to East Coast, or should we say back to East Coast? Did you have you had a run?
Back to East Coast.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Run.
A long run earlier. How many years did you live in New York before you moved?
In total, probably 15, 18 years.
Whoa.
So, yeah. New York has been home since I was 18 years old in art school at Cooper Union. So.
How does Kim Krans get the intuitive nod to make a move like that and to give up the view of the ocean that you had at your place?
Oh, my relationship with moving is a terrifying subject that should be just quarantined to its own podcast that I can talk for 7 or 8 hours and no one ever has to listen to it.
Nice.
I basically lived on a farm in Michigan, 140-acre farm in Michigan until I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
When I left for art school and when I was in high school, boarding art school. And so I lived in the same house that whole time. And it was the same house that my mom was raised in. And since I left that house, I probably moved every year. Sometime, you know, on average, if I stay in a place longer, that compensates for the places I've lived in a couple of different places a year. So I would say since then, I've lived in like 30 houses.
Wow. That's incredible.
No, it's terrible.
Right. Well, yes. And incredible, I guess, in this sense is sort of like, you know, even when you see smog filled with smoke, it's kind of incredible to think about. You know, I guess it's kind of like that.
I mean, it's like wild. But it's one of the toughest journeys of my life, of really searching for that like sense of belonging. I mean, I've owned homes and lived in them for like 3 to 5 years and really hunkered down in certain spaces and places with communities. But at the same time, there's something in me that is like either, you know, constantly seeking a distant shore or a new experience, or there's also a kind of like restlessness in me that wants to, you know, just go to Spain and see what it's like to make drawings there for a year and then go back to LA because I miss my friends.
Right on.
So I don't have the typical anchors that people have that keep them in a place for long term. I don't have a relationship or kiddos or a job where I have to be somewhere, which is a great gift of my life. And like gifts, especially if we're going to speak about archetypes today, you know, the gift has many sides to it. So it's archetypal in its nature. So it's like a blessing or a curse type of a thing. So it's such a gift to be able to be anywhere. And also it's very, very disorienting.
Yeah.
So
I was going to ask, like, are there any secrets to the way that you find feeling grounded or seek grounding when there's consistent movement in your life?
Well, this year has been a revisiting of that question fully. And it's just comes back to my practice.
Yeah.
And it comes back to the meditation and mantra and the ashram. I went back to the ashram last month, which is like a place that's meant a lot to me over the years. And in a sense is kind of like the tether or the home. So I think about this idea of the tether a lot for people who have a mystical inclination or a tendency to like traverse different realms in the unseen or whatever their paths might be as a spiritual practitioner, that like the tether is so important in any dream work or shamanic work or journeying. You want to know where home is and where the origin is, and that you can actually tether back like immediately. So for myself, I've had to really reestablish that again this year as I'm back in New York and it's very like hectic and fluid here and a lot of external overstimulation. I have to have my tether and my anchor in order to support myself as an artist, or I start to lose what's really important. I can get discombobulated and start thinking other things are important, like, I don't know, like a brunch place. You know what I mean?
That's on a lot of people's lists, actually, of like why they might not move when you find a good brunch place.
I mean, I like a good meal, but it's like that's not why I'm here, you know? So part of that's like also having community and people that I'm with that remind me of like what is true for them and reflect back what is true for me in a larger sense.
And your community that you're building, or at least that are those inner core, they don't have to be necessarily where you are at this stage in life, right? Or you feel connected to certain people and stay in touch with them as like a sort of an inner sangha out of a tradition, but a friendship sangha?
Yes. And at the same time, I think the digital, nomadic friend sangha circles are, again, an example of that sort of blessing and a curse type of archetype where it's like, I need to make sure that I'm with people, like in a physical sense, in a room with people, practicing with people, chanting with people, laughing, like, you know, just get in the room, as they say. So that's been a mission of mine since getting back to New York, is just like get myself in the room with people, whether that's like dance class or yoga class or boxing or, you know, meditation groups, just, 12-step rooms, whatever the situation is, to like get in the room with the people. It's so important.
Yeah. Was it a tough decision? Also, just, I know that you had a boxing ring that you were working out of and somebody that you trained with. And so you had to start that whole journey, I imagine, over going to New York, or did you already have somebody in mind to work with out in New York?
The boxing, oh God, I miss my boxing studio so much, but it had kind of like my yoga studio in New York, my Kundalini studio, the boxing studio had kind of dissolved, business wise into several different gyms, and it wasn't what it was. It's funny, my yoga studio and my boxing studio, they dissolved and then they got sort of competitive with each other.
Wow.
And so that was really intense.
I bet.
And that's like, throw making out with a couple of boxing coaches into the mix and you're like, I'm totally screwed. Totally screwed.
Oh my gosh. Just the thought of boxing competing with yoga on a fight level. It's like,
no, I mean, no. Just to be clear, the yoga studio split and was competing with itself.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And the boxing studio split is competing with itself. So suddenly I had nowhere really that felt like neutral.
Yeah.
And I had a rule, and I had such a good rule, and I really stuck to it for years of like, don't sleep with anyone from the gym.
Yeah, sure.
Just like, this is not the fucking thing, you know?
Yeah. Don't shit where you eat kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And like any repressed thing, when I broke it, like I really
you know how to create moves. That's for sure.
I mean, hey, if you're gonna pull back the slingshot for a couple of years, when you let it go, all kinds of things happen. So
make it count.
Make it count. I really made it count, and it really blew up in my face. And these sort of precious spaces that were really neutral and loving, and just places where I could witness others and they could witness me growing.
Yeah.
And changing.
Yeah.
And whether it was like hitting the bag or chanting the mantra or teaching or whatever.
Yeah.
So that dissipated, and that was a big reason why I was like, wow, I'm ready to leave LA, because, you know, quite significant anchors of mine have come to their own completion.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
I guess it'd be like having somebody sitting next to your cocoon as you're like becoming a butterfly, going from caterpillar to butterfly, but then like inviting them in to make out with them in the process. It might not be as holy of a situation anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to be a stickler and be rigid, you know what I mean? But like, I just, my like ashram makeouts and my boxing studio, it just like, it hasn't really paid off.
Word to the wise.
Word to the wise. Just like.
That's so great and forthcoming. And thank you for being so honest about that. I'm sure plenty of people relate, you know, to this notion.
There's so much power in either of those spaces. Like, it's so easy to fall in love and project love because of the power that's awakening in the person, whether it be the practitioner or the coach or the teacher. And in a sense, you're reflecting back to each other the life force reawakening.
Mm-hmm.
And the life force is so loving and it's so romantic and so attractive that we mistake that. Not that they can't sometimes go together and you find your person at those places, but typically for me, it's been like a conflation or a mistaken reflection of myself in my adoration of other.
Right. Well said. Gosh, that's beautiful. And thank you for sharing that. I think I'm thanking you for the listeners who aren't here to be able to say thank you. I imagine that'd be very powerful to hear. That, and you're not viewing this as a mistake. Also, it sounds like. I mean, what's the ongoing narrative around it?
There's also like, you know, there's comedy and discovery in all of it too. I mean. When I started going to a boxing studio here in New York, I was like, after a couple of weeks, you know, it was a good studio. Classes were hard, but I was like, I don't have a gym crush. So like,
this isn't complete.
I was like, the alarm goes off at 5:15 in the morning and you're supposed to put the mitts on. And I'm like, that last bit of motivation of like, I just feel like there's a vibe with that guy. that final motivation to get out of bed just like wasn't there. So I'd be like, yeah, why am I going to like run around and like, just
yeah. It's great.
And that's a hilarious discovery about myself.
Yes.
Like, you know, it's funny as a story, but it's also like, okay, there's something in me that wants like a little edge of like, what if in terms of like romance in the spaces that I am in. So it's just sort of knowing, you know, the game of knowing yourself and what motivates us to do anything really.
Yeah. Besides the profundity of your work, through either the wild unknown or your, courses that you give or anything like that. Do you feel like there's aspect to kind of getting a peek behind the curtain of what it's like to be somebody who's looked at as somebody who knows things about the archetypes like that we're going to talk about today. And do you feel like your unique expression in that is a bit of giving people a peek behind the curtain of showing how human you are and how you make, you haven't called them mistakes here, but, the folly of life and finding out where you are in situations. Do you feel like that's a unique part of who you are as a figure in this medium?
I appreciate the question, the nuance of the question. I think I've always been attracted to the artist, the archetype of the artist, as opposed to the archetype of like the prophet or the sage, because the artist seems to me more of a mirror, like a reflective nature in their work and in their dynamics with those that are looking at their work. Whereas anytime there's a pedestalizing of a spiritual teacher, especially now, like in the wellness industry, New Age industry, there's so much pedestalization. And assumptions, projections about people in the spiritual world. And I'm here to be a mirror. I'm here to make images that are magnetic enough that people are intrigued to look at them and they find themselves. They don't find me and my wise things that I'm going to say. They find the perfect, accurate, time-sensitive, nuanced detail that is effective for them at that moment. So if they're looking at a card, you could be observing 10 different things about that card, but the idea would be that that person where they are at is noticing something that's precise for them at that moment.
So it's honesty.
And in that sense, then I get to disappear and I get to go find my discoveries in the art that I'm looking at and my own spiritual practices too. So there's not a sort of holding each other accountable for growth. Like my hope is that the people grow from the cards that I've made that are out there, these, at this very moment, and that they link that to their own discovery, not me creating or providing the discovery for them.
That's amazing. I mean, I had a question emerge about how you find truth like that to be as honest as a mirror without it being sort of, I guess, where you find the line between truth and your truth, or sort of like relative truth versus like what these cards and your art and everything is sort of meant to point to sort of beyond even relative truth, I imagine, even though that's the way that we all connect is through the relativity. But how do you differentiate between truth and, a lot of people say, this is my truth. This is my truth. What's the difference between truth and your truth?
It's such a great question. I was thinking about this today, in relation to some of the work that I've done, because I could categorize my work in a more, some of the, especially the decks, I feel like are more sort of universal, or they're about the user. And then there's really personal works that I've done, like Blossoms and Bones, a series of audio essays that I released last year, and a new book that I'm working on now of very personal works, writings about my relationship to art and mysticism.
Wow.
And it's interesting because I have not had the response or success from the work that is about me and my personal sort of journey or nuance of that journey. They've been successful, but nowhere to the degree that the work that has been more neutral in its orientation and more about the user experiencing something. So that has created in me like a limiting story that like people just want this. And if I start talking about too much about myself, it's not going to be as successful. So I have to really watch that narrative as I'm creating new works, because essentially both of those things are just a story. You know, there's so much nuanced personal preference and my own personal, very nuanced art practice is inside every one of those cards and every mark that appears on the card. So it's sort of like me literalizing like what's personal and what's not. But I just hold the question dearly as I'm making new work.
It seems to bleed over maybe even into your comedy. I mean, it seems like a good venue for you to be honest without being honest. And I mean, just playing with themes without it being so personal to you, because in your comedy, you go into like you get inhabited by these other beings in your act. I mean,
yeah, the comedy is a really good place for me to sort of experiment with the different voices and the different inclinations. Like I can be the obsessed astrologer 1 minute, and then the next character can be the one that like can't stand astrology and can like really give a talking to astrologers. So I love that the comic archetype, and this is a card I wanted to talk about today, actually. I just love that the comedian is able to do that. And by doing that sort of back and forth trickster work, the comedian loves the subject. Like they love the subject enough to give the time, you know, the airtime to it.
right.
So, it's by nature, you know, the comedian by nature is one who observes the nuance of the world and is able to turn it around, you know, infinite amount of times to find the best joke within it.
Nice.
But I think within that is such an admiration for the world, the nuance of
God, you know, I was thinking about love yesterday. I was talking about love, and not in a romantic way, but sort of unconditional love, or what makes that, just sort of like what we're talking about here. What's the difference between relative truth and big T truth, so called? And I was going, well, it's love, unconditional love. It goes beyond the personal. It's sort of for the benefit of all, even if that means your extinguishment on some level, you know, in order to bring about benefit. You know, if love is a beneficial quality, and of course, you know, it's my thing. Love is the author behind everything. You know, it's sculpting us and shaping us. But if that's true, then, you know, a lot of us think about love and even unconditional love as being a thing that still relates to us. You know, that it still relates to our story and how we're affected by the people around us, or our inner circle of compassion. And that real unconditional love can go beyond your story or your associations completely and just bring from the benefit of all rather than the individual. And thinking about comedy in that way, it seems to, in the way that you're describing it, it loves so much that it gives the critique while still holding the absolute love for the subject. It presents qualities that we're maybe not willing to talk about this thing that we love so much or that we hold dear, and it's willing to go there, which I think is really cool. And I wonder also, before we get into the archetypes, which I'm so excited to do today, I'm so excited that you have these original drawings also that you're going to share, and that went into the deck, and that we're going to cover some of as many as we can today. But thinking about comedy, two things. One, the idea of moving to New York at a time where your comedy is emerging. You know, you're emerging as as a stand-up. I don't even know if you call it stand-up. Would you call what you're doing stand-up, or sort of one-woman show, or what?
It's a bit more like a performance art comedy. It's sort of stand-up. It uses that format, but I think it's very housed in the lineage of performance art.
Yeah. Okay. So
absurd theater.
So thinking about all the moves that you've had, if you've lived in 30 houses, I mean, that's already, we're in comedy, you know, we're in like the absurdity of life, you know,
Yeah.
And then as this all synthesizes for you out on the West Coast, you know, New York is so archetypal for comedy. You know, it's thinking about being able to do comedy anywhere at any time in the middle of the night where a lot of people are developing their thing. Was there a romantic fascination with being at this stage in your life, developing comedic offerings, and then coming to New York City where something like that is launched? It's been a venue for so many careers to be launched or developed, still is.
Yeah. I think the pull for New York was really like the deepest, most earnest, and youngest like artist dream in me. That was the one that moved here at 18 and went to Cooper Union. And that artist, I was drawing at the time. I was playing in a band, punk indie band in Brooklyn. I was doing performance art and singing in my class. I was doing some sort of very bizarre, like avant-garde stand-up performances in my sculpture class.
Nice.
And people were like, can you just stop? Can you just actually stop?
That's the mark of it. Yeah. There's a star on the rise right there.
You have to do that in art school.
That's right.
And so moving back here really felt like just tending to her, tending to the vast archive of drawings that I have that haven't been exhibited yet, the books that I haven't published yet, the unwritten, the unperformed. It's like, oh my God, the archive. The archive at this point of my work is massive. So the move back to New York was like, okay, I'm going to believe in this vision that I've always had, to be a multidisciplinary artist on like a vast scale, since I was a kid. And I'm going to move back to New York, get an art studio, and dedicate, you know, my daily practice there and see what happens, and give it a year and just see what happens. So whether that's, I mean, to say it's not limited to comedy for me, I'm also tending to, like the drawings we'll look at today, it's like sifting through the thousands of drawings I have at this point in the archive that were in storage all the years I was in LA. And being like, okay, well, where do these want to live, and what happens with everything? So
it feels like you were in that process when I went to your house last time, where you were like deep in the process of sifting through all this stuff. And I didn't know that you didn't have an art studio, that they were all in storage. I can imagine.
Yeah. I kind of realized that at the end of my LA time was that, oh my God, my drawing archive has been in storage.
So it'd be nice to have a place where all that stuff can be out and you can actively start to piece things together. That makes sense. You've had a run of some press also. I feel like since we last talked, you had the LA Times article, right? That came out. How is that to you? I mean, having it in print like that in one of the biggest news rags in the country.
I was really grateful because my career has been so unconventional in its path, and I've had great success in so many ways, and yet not that many people know how to really see it or hold it, the vision of it. And so that piece was the first time that a writer really came to like be with me for a few days, look at the art, interview me about what I was working on, about the decks, about self-publishing the decks, and then bringing them to HarperCollins and what that arc was like. And the piece is great. It also includes a boxing studio, which is fun.
Nice.
But it really felt not so much, the press outlet or anything, but just it felt validating in that she really worked through the story. She pieced it together, and I was like, oh, I can kind of see my own path,
That appeals to me romantically, the notion of somebody investigating something that deeply and hanging out a few days and really getting in your world like journalism sort of used to be, Yeah,
it's interesting because I think actually this is how we view artists from the past that we see as successful, or musicians. We're viewing them through that lens of a reporter or a story or a biography that makes it make sense. But I swear that those artists, if you caught them at 40 something and they were like between projects and between agents and working on something that they weren't sure and they wanted to try this other thing, that they would feel so similar to how we all feel, which is just like, what's the big storyline here?
Yeah.
How is this gonna all make sense? Like, everything really does make sense, especially with an artist biography in hindsight.
It's another great moment of you being vulnerable and saying that in the in-between of your presentations that you relate to the rest of us in the way of going, well, I don't know where is this all going? What's the overarching theme? Am I on the right track? Asking those kind of questions in the in-between and maybe not wanting to have those periods of time so much focused on as a part of the whole thing. Like, I've asked you probably at various times to be on this podcast where things they didn't feel like, maybe you didn't feel like you had something to present yet because you were in one of those pockets. Is that something like?
Yeah, definitely. The in-betweens have been so much more frequent for me in the last 2 years, probably. And I think that that's a good thing in hindsight.
I'm loving that we're getting the New York sounds. I'm so glad you...
Yeah, we really just got the...
That was rad. It's so good to hear New York. The Bardo is an archetype in your deck, is it not?
Yeah, it is.
Could we start there?
And the comic is a card. This is a good story. Okay. I feel like we should start with let's start with the comic.
Okay,
because great. And then we'll get to the Bardo.
Okay.
Both are gems. But the comic was the last card that I put into the deck. So I created the whole deck. This is when I was studying Jungian psychology at Pacifica. And I made all of these drawings, sent them to the editor, sent everything into the publisher. Everything was finalized. And then I had this realization one day, maybe like a week or two later, like, oh my God, there's nothing funny in the deck.
I'm glad that mattered to you.
This is a deck of archetypes, and the comedy tragedy, like the basic dueling components of all of life.
Yeah.
Comedy tragedy.
Right, exactly.
It's not included.
Which is hilarious.
It's hilarious. And then I realized that it had gotten so serious, and people already come to archetypes so serious. And when anyone hears Carl Jung, they get even more serious.
Right.
And so things get very scholarly very, very quickly. And one of the goals of the deck was to make sure that people realize the archetypes are just at work all the time.
Yeah.
They're just part of the makeup. They're the underlying patterns of our existence and our experience. So the comic is here. And so I called the editor and I was like, stop the printer, like hold the printing.
Nice.
And then I included the comic card, which I'll show it to you. It's ridiculous, but I had to make it ridiculous. And compared to my other drawings that are more sort of serious and poetic, it's ridiculous, but it is, I would say, one of my like magnum opuses.
Wow.
This is the original drawing of the comic card.
So if you can't see right now, if you're not watching this, it's it looks like a kitten with maybe a birthday hat on, like a little tassel. Is that what this is?
Yeah, the birthday hat is made out of sparkles, and the cat or sprinkles, and then it has a sparkle on the top. But I had to draw this card over and over and keep lightening up as I was drawing it.
Yeah.
Like, just get ridiculous, because that's what the comic does.
Right.
But I'm so studious and earnest in my work, especially when I'm making a deck, that I had to really, really get into a different zone when I made that card. So that's officially my magnum opus card.
Wow, that's so trippy too. It sounds like you're, in a beautiful way, it sounds like you're cutting yourself down. No, how much sillier can we get? Like, you're almost like not, and to really embody this thing, you have to go beyond your, like, oh my gosh, am I going to present something this silly or this imaginative or no, let's do it again. Let's do it again. It's almost like you're wanting to not satisfy the ego on some level in order to have a completed thing. Is that what I was hearing?
Every card, every archetype requests that I tune, as a maker of the deck, that I tune into that archetype. Like, in order for me to draw and come up with an image, a new image of the Orphan card and write about it, I had to really get into that archetype, which it's not intellectual.
Wow.
It's like walk the walk sort of moment as an artist, to be like, okay, well, I grew up with parents, so that's not going to work in terms of me trying to find the inner orphan. But if this force truly is archetypal, that means it's universal.
Right.
So where is the orphaned spirit in me, the one who does not belong?
Right.
And so tapping into that archetype, and I can feel the wave of it now.
Yes, I hear it.
That is where the image will emerge from.
Wow.
Not from the mind saying, this is a smart way to depict the orphan.
Wow. Fucking A, man. That is so beautiful and heavy.
It's kind of heavy.
It's so beautiful and heavy, though. I mean, it's like heavy joy. That's one of my favorite phrases I made up. Like, it's just the heaviest joy. I'm joyful because people are getting a window in. It's heavy because of where you had to go to get that right. Where in, can you give us any element or of what you used as an inspiration to find the inner orphan in you?
Well, then it just became like a contemplation meditation. I mean, one could like do a practice right in the moment of, sensing first, like, the sort of typical or superficial pop cultural expressions of what that looks like. And then you just keep dropping in one step deeper and one step deeper and one step deeper to sense, like, where in the physical body, in the breath, in the images of life, does that frequency live? And it's very, it's like acupuncture or something. It's very accurate. When you hit on it as an image maker, it rings true. And so I think I could find the actual image of the Orphan card.
Oh, that'd be great.
There's a lot of cards here, so
I was watching a podcast yesterday where, like, their production value is not good, but the people are very interesting. And I was noticing how much I am willing to put up with as a viewer watching a poor production, as long as I'm interested in the subject. And poor production these days is sort of like everything's being produced to be so tight and glossy and having the air or the space cut out of sentences and all that. And I just felt like so relaxed watching this one I was watching was Robbie Hoffman, the comedian, and I love her or them, and it's very, because like all I'm saying is basically that the time that it takes for you to find a card, I'm sure people will be putting up with gratefully. So,
thank you. Okay, I found it. This was a surprising image for me. This is the Orphan card.
Wow. Yeah, I've pulled it many times. Okay, so there's a snake wrapped around in a circle. There's a hand outstretched connected to no body. And there's a flower that seems to be on the other side of the hand outstretched. And then the number is 5 of this card. Yes? Is that what that V is? Okay. Did I get it right as far as describing the imagery?
Yeah. There's this, there's the outstretched hand, which I have a fascination also with gesture or mudra. There's a lot of hands in this deck. And then in the alchemy deck, there's even more hands in specific shapes. And one of the things that always strikes me about the outstretched hands is it's both like an asking for and an offering to. So it's like, we don't know if the hand is offering the flower or if it's asking to take the flower. And the two hands together that are in a sense begging, are also, it's the most like beautifully receptive, like loving, prayerful gesture that you might see in different like spiritual practices where you would offer flowers or herbs to the fire, say in India in a fire ceremony. So I think that this card for me just always brings up that really subtle and very sharp for me edge of knowing that I belong in a greater sense. And then in a sort of day-to-day personal sense, really wondering where I belong, especially in relationship to family. And I think that is the Orphan's sort of great question, great query of life. And all of the cards have their own great query, which is a contradicting force that sustains them in a sense, and that makes them timeless and makes them universal.
Right.
They have to have inner contradiction.
It's so trippy to be in this moment. I just had an out-of-body experience, sort of going like, wait, how did you get here? You used to use this deck and just ask the big questions and see it as a way of getting answers before I knew you, long before I knew you, and now I'm having it broke down to me, and some of the things that have been homegrown realizations, like the idea of the hand being outstretched and open. We don't know whether it's receiving or giving in that moment. I had that realization years ago, and to hear you say that it's a part of the image creation around this card, and that's the paradoxical or the contradictory nature, right? Is the hand receiving or is it giving?
Yeah.
Very
is
much
it giving, taking.
It's very much like an orphan's life. Like it can be a very inspiring story and inspire other people to see how resilient we can be, and at the same time, it could use some support from this universe, in receiving. So that's so beautiful. And this, do you want to say something else about that?
Well, I wanted to say something that's actually quite nuanced and tricky. Is I remember being in a lecture or giving a presentation at Pacifica once, and I was speaking about the orphan archetype, and one of the people in class was like really offended because I was speaking about the orphan archetype, and I had parents that I knew, and I wasn't in foster care. So the question was like, what right do you have to speak about the orphan archetype?
Or interpret it, I guess.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's like, this is sticky territory, and we all like jump away. We're like, oh, right, I shouldn't even, guess what I shouldn't do? I shouldn't even include that card in the deck. And then the orphaned becomes more orphaned.
Right. Oh my God. Whoa.
It's so crazy. And it's so tempting and easy to say like, oh yeah, they were right.
Right.
And I can't speak to this. And I'm like, no, I'm working with the archetypes. I have to learn how to find this part of me that's been rejected in certain areas of my life. It might not look like literal biological parents, but it looks like a lot of other things.
Which is a way of understanding the actual people who have been orphaned by parents.
It's all of our jobs to find the way that we can understand these archetypes. And we have to get past the literal. This is like 101 of the archetypes.
Fuck yeah.
It's like you get the poet card and you're like, I don't really write poetry.
Yeah.
So I can't do the poet card. No, it's like we have to look at it metaphorically and look at the map of our life and where does the resonance of the poetic perspective, where does it ring true? Yes. Maybe it rings true when you're in nature. Maybe it rings true when you're on a horse or with your pet, or we don't know what it is, but it's really our jobs, and especially mine as practitioner and author of archetypal psychology and archetypal art, to, if something is archetypal, I have to practice that finding that resonance in me, no matter my biography.
Amazing. And it's a way of universally understanding all people in all situations. Not to say that we've been where they are, but we're practicing understanding all these different archetypes that find us and all these different situations that find us. It's a way of creating better understanding among people, ultimately, I imagine.
Exactly. That's why the flap of the deck, when you open it, says accept all, reject none. And that's really the premise of the archetypal teaching in this deck that I was going for, was that all are welcome. And for us to understand and spend time being with the archetypes, we build tolerance, we build compassion, we become deeper people that are able to sit with others and also understand where these resonances show up in art and in day-to-day life and in culture.
Perfect. Could we go to the artist rather than the Bardo?
Oh, the artist card?
Yeah.
You want to bypass the Bardo? Nice try, Jaymee.
Okay, let's go to the Bardo. I spent enough time there, I feel like, but I wanted to get to it, but I just was going, I was thinking about what you're talking about of sort of a lot of people don't relate to being a poet, but a lot of people don't relate to being an artist either if they're not painting or singing or doing something. But then I always ask these people like, well, how did you make tea today? And how are you loving today? And how did you drive the car? And how did you make that tough decision? There's an art of living that immediately makes you an artist,
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to jump.
I did find the Bardo card though, meanwhile.
Okay, sweet. Let's go there.
Okay, the Bardo card, this is
Oh my God, I love it so much. Okay, so a circle of skulls around, what is
I love this card too, the box.
Yes, I remember getting that card too.
These are kind of interesting together. They're
right.
They're similar in they're spatial. It's sort of mental spaces that we create in our lives, but
and there's like a play along at home. Get out your deck. I'm sure a lot of people have
get
already.
Out your decks.
If you're a listener, get out your deck, and you're gonna be playing right along, and maybe we'll be.
And we could do a reading like in a sort of old fashioned way. Not that so these are the original drawings before they get sent to the printer and
right.
Retouched and cut up and made into the decks that we all know now.
Dude, I'm lit up. This is so cool.
But we could also just go through and, you could tell me, it would be like whammy, 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 stop. No whammy, stop. What's that
sweet.
game?
Yeah. We could do a reading. Okay, great.
Look, Mars is here, so everyone's getting really excited.
What's up, Mars?
Mars is game show. He's here for the show business.
Nice. Contractual obligation to make one appearance.
Yeah, exactly. That was his cameo.
Nice.
So I can't find the artist card, but we did just have the Bardo.
Yes.
So when you think of Bardo, what's your like go-to image?
Oh, good call. Image.
Or what do you think of?
Well, of course, because of 20 years of being a teabag that's steeping in Tibetan Buddhist waters. I think of the in-between. I think I used to think about the place that we go in between living and the next life, the death realm. But now I just think about it as sort of any in-between that there is, wherever there's space in between things, transition. Okay, here's one. I think about the out breath just before taking an in breath.
What is there's a word for it. There's a Sanskrit word for it that's lovely.
For that,
I'm not going to think of it too quickly. You'll have to cut out the time it takes for me to think of it.
You got it.
People will think that I just have my Sanskrit right there.
Totally. What is that word?
It starts with a V. It has a VRK sound in it, I think.
Oh, Verk.
I want to say like recruity or something.
Okay, something.
It's not, believe me, it's not that. I'm still looking for the artist card.
Oh, nice.
And I'm not seeing it, actually.
Okay, well, let's stay with the Bardo then. So what's the imagery that you used? Why'd you use the skulls in a circle around, and what are they circling? What's that image?
It's interesting to try to draw the Bardo because essentially there's nothing to draw. So
yeah, inside joke.
I found this when I was drawing one of the other cards in the deck is the empty room. Those are very different, the empty room and the Bardo, because, well, both of them have a kind of existential dilemma built within them. But the Bardo is sort of transitory in between, as you were speaking to. It's a sort of like screen dissolve or what would crossfade between scenes. But it's swimming in there. You can really get in the pull and sway of the groundlessness of that space. Mm-hmm. At best, I think of Bardo as like an airport, but where everyone is there, but no one knows anyone, and you're just passing through and you're passing by, and everyone is no one.
It's like a congregation of transitionary beings.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And everyone's sort of equalized in that space. You're just like, we're on the escalator.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what you got going in your life.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Yeah.
And so that is a challenging thing to draw because it doesn't really have an image. It has the transient image is its sort of nature.
Yeah.
And the empty room was even trickier because every time I tried to draw it, I would draw something. I would draw something filling the room.
Oh, gotcha. Huh.
And the empty room is empty.
Yeah.
So those types of concepts, like the comic, are very hard for the ego of the artist to try to articulate because I still want to do a good job making the thing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, I could draw whatever. I'm really just going to leave the card empty.
That's so fun. That's so fun to hear your whole process around this. God, and you went from the empty room, not being able to make that work, to this skull circle, which I guess is it's touching into the death aspect of things.
Yeah, I wanted this one to have a little bit of, the Bardo has some, a nod to the idea of like, where is the soul Is it reincarnating? It's an afterlife space. It does involve, that archetype does involve the death of one thing leading to another, whereas the empty room is like the hungry ghost that,
I
think of
for
like
furniture.
yeah, it's dying for furniture, and I think of it as like this sort of space of like addiction or the absolute void of nothing, and that's a whole different ballgame,
right?
Than the Bardo, because the Bardo, there's a promise of what's next.
Right, that's true. We're headed somewhere.
Yeah,
coming
it's
or going,
transitional. So this is the empty room.
Oh yeah, that's right. So it's like the inside. It's looking from the inside of a box, a cube, out into the universe. Like if the box, it looks like you're looking from the inside of a clear glass box that's floating in space.
Thanks, Jaymee.
Did I get that?
You did.
Okay.
Great descriptions.
Awesome.
Yeah, but I wanted to fill this with so many stars and so many like beautiful things and maybe a gem. It's like, no, I had to really tone it down over and over and over.
Gotcha.
Because facing the empty room is so gnarly.
Yeah.
It is what I would say people describe as like the bottom, like any addict that describes their bottom, or they describe the trying to fill that thing, that God-sized hole.
And the bottom would be the glass box itself, because you're being held in something, even though you're floating out in the, like, where is this all going to go?
Yeah, it's like the nowhere, the nowhereness of it.
Wow.
But this sort of longing to like consume or find or get or have, that temporarily satiates this, like, they describe it in the rooms as the God-sized hole. It's like, I don't know a description that's better than that one.
Yes, but you drew the God-sized hole. That's really, seriously, what a great interpretation of that. It's mind-blowing to me, actually, that's where, that's kind of the impetus was, sort of that the wording of it, God-shaped hole. But this is maybe what that would look like. Exactly. Sort of you're in the universe, but it's all completely, and you're in your particular box, and there's nothing in there, and you can see through it all. So it's transparent also. What's the transparent nature of it signifying in the drawing?
I think, like you're alluding to, like you can see through it, but you can't access it.
Is it
it's
acceptance?
Like when people, I don't think so. This is a very stuck card. I mean, this is a gnarly one, you know, like, in a sense, it's beautifully spacious and pure potential, and it's more like brighter from a brighter perspective. But, I think that the empty room in all of us is something to be taken quite, I don't want to say seriously, but I'll say it seriously. It's a source of a lot of filling the room with other things.
Wow. Right.
Because what one actually wants is to just pierce through the veil of the glass and not be separated from the massive energy.
And filling the space would be like to distract yourself from actually what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah. The discomfort
of
the emptiness. Yeah.
Sounds like you've been there.
Oh my God. I have been there. And I can tap into that, while we're talking, you know, I do think that's been a gift of drawing these decks over the years, is having to put myself in the place of the subject, whether it be the Chariot card in the tarot, or the empty room in the Archetypes, or the Mother, or any of those, like finding that place in me, being willing to sit in the resonance of it, even if it's incredibly uncomfortable or incredibly grandiose and like exhilarating, and then wait for an image to show itself. And then I try as best I can to capture that image and put it in a card.
I really have to commend you. I mean, it's making me emotional how accurately you got something that's so ineffable to be able to describe or accurately, or I imagine imagining it, imagining what that could look like and synthesizing that into an image that it just evokes. As we talk about it, I just have tears coming to my eyes thinking about how really perfect that image is, and that I hadn't ever considered a glass box floating in the universe, as imagery at all in my life, yet it feels so personal to me in this moment. How does it differ from the box? The other card that's on there.
It's a great question. Here's the box cards for those that are watching.
Which looks like a sort of square that it looks like one of those sort of, if you stare in the middle of an image that has like what would you call this? There's probably an artistic thing for boxes within boxes within boxes.
It's a little bit op art.
Op art, yeah. Okay.
Op arty. Op
art,
anyway,
not pop art.
It's graphic. It's more graphic. So I when I think of the box card and the meaning that I wrote in the guidebook, it's way more of a mental, archetypal place, logistical, structural, sort of earthbound boxness. Compared to the empty room is like an existential God room question. It's and the box is sort of hyper vigilant or organizing around something that is keeping one very limited.
Yeah.
And on its more productive side, it would be an organizing principle that helps the thing come into the world. So
would this be somebody who gets hired as a good organizer, but their life is messy, even though they're really good at, like you said, hypervigilance and thinking about all the different ways it can go wrong and all that, but then their own life suffers?
Well, the box card can go either way. It's limiting beliefs on one hand. So it's a self-definition that is constricting, can be constricting. However, the box can also create like really healthy structural boundaries. So if someone draws the box card, it's about discerning whether the box needs to be opened or a box needs to be created to protect the nourishing little thing that's developing inside of itself. It's like how baby chicks need to be like in a little enclosed space with the heat lamp.
Yes.
They need that nourishment.
Yeah.
And there's a time and a place for that. So you would want to like carry the little chicks home from the farm store in this like little box, and it's all cozy and everything's warm in there. And then at some point, if you were to do that same thing with like a tiger, it's like, it's not the time or the place. That tiger, like, think about a tiger in a box, like even that image, we all know like how fucked up that is, and like what's going to happen to the box and what's necessary for the tiger. So it's about knowing, where is there a box that I've created or limitations around my thinking and my self-definition? Is that necessary anymore? Or can I expand the box?
God, it's the essence of your drawing, at least, is the essence of limitation. because it seems like a box within a box within a box within a box. There's just no space at all. It's all just safety protocols almost.
Yeah, it's safety protocol card for sure. It's a sympathetic nervous system card for sure.
Right.
And then once one recognizes, oh my God, I'm in a box, and you make space, a little bit of space, you realize like, oh my God, there's another box. And you just keep sensing how many ways we have limited ourselves. So this is a little bit of a clown car, this card.
Nice.
Because as soon as we think we don't have boxes, we're like, find another one, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm an advocate for structure and rules and boundaries and limitations in that I'm always like loving Saturn. And I know it's not very popular to love Saturn right now in our culture, but defining things really helps them come into existence. So if you're going to write a book, you have to define the book and limit it and decide and have a deadline and a title and a cover. All of those things have to be selected. So that's a more nuanced interpretation of the box, but we do need to hone in on things.
Right.
Structure them.
And all these are sort of like a guide to being in on the joke, you know, almost like right. Like, it's like, oh yeah, I do that. Oh yeah, that's me too. Oh yeah, over here I do that. And you know, but it's recognizing that you're not counted out, you know, by having that be a situation. Like you're in on the joke, that you do it just like you have been in the creation of these. You had to get in on the joke, you know.
You have to get in on the joke with the archetypes. Otherwise, there's some real like BS going on. Because
be the butt of the joke.
Yeah, because you know, a personal example, which I will say lightly, but is a massive subject in my life, is being like, I'm not a mom. The mother archetype is like doesn't have anything to do with me.
Already my mind can just disagree so wholeheartedly about you, because I think you're probably mothering so many burgeoning mystics out there with your deck. And I'm not trying to make you feel better. I'm just saying this is what the archetypes can help you with, is seeing I'm in a box breaking mentality in the moment, seeing you as somebody who's not a mother, you know?
Right. Well, that's when we again have to move past the literal. So to go back to the example of the person having an issue with me discussing the orphan archetype, if I don't have biological kids, does that mean that I can't draw the mother card?
Right.
And we'll get into trouble as we start confining, speaking of boxes, all these spaces we can explore and can't explore according to our literal biographies. So moving into the metaphor of the mother is where you were taking it in terms of my creative practice. But also for me, there's like, you know, years of contemplation to do around what can motherhood mean to me, not as a biological mom, when I long to be a biological mom. So that the archetypes just give us this like neutral map. And they basically say, look, these are the issues like in the life of the world as a human. And if you think about them as like a constellation, some stars are going to be brighter in certain people's lives than others. And some people, you know, they won't link that directly to certain archetypes. But then there are some that we might dismiss that are actually, if we take them in a non-literal way, deep, deep contemplations for us. Again, to just become more tolerant, compassionate, loving of self and other.
And these are all the kaleidoscopic embodiments of mind on some level. Like this is the kaleidoscopic aspects of how mind can move through duality, and all the different us's that we can be. It doesn't even have to be about understanding other people and other people's situations. We end up seeing ourselves in all beings through looking through all these archetypes and relating with them all, I guess.
Yeah, that's the practice.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Nice.
That's why I made this deck, was in part it's for the divination or for the mysticism, but there's a huge educational component here for me.
Yeah.
When I started studying archetypes and Jungian psychology, archetypal psychology by James Hillman, and realizing that this term archetypes and the, let's just say like a list, an open-ended list of archetypes wasn't in the paradigm of pop culture or culture at large. There's one deck out there prior to mine, and it was all of personas. It was all types of people. And I was stunned. I was like, I have to broaden this conversation because places are archetypal. Times in our life are archetypal.
Yeah.
Objects are archetypal. So the deck is divided into those categories. There's sides of the self, there's places, there's tools, and then there's initiations. So these big moments of like death or love or, spiritual love of God or love of, a prayerfulness or, so all this to say, the archetypes deck was really, so much of it was educational.
Yeah, I bet.
Like, I got to get I got to get this map to people so that it can help them. And if it has to go through the model or format of a deck, that's fine, because people use them and they really learn through the process of divination what the archetypes mean.
Right.
And that's my real interest.
That's so cool. I mean, because it's the way that it all came about, and you're giving that to people. You're giving the way that you educated yourself around all this and the involvement that you had. You're inviting other people to do the same with this deck, and how things. I always pay attention to people are very interested in sustainability, how to sustain something good in their life. And I always point them back to, well, how did it originate? Where did it start? What are the components that fortified it in the beginning? It's
a great question.
Are you honoring those now? We got to take care of the way that this thing came about. If it came from the unknown, then we have to have more of the unknown in our life and more of a welcoming of that, because when something comes from the unknown and it's beneficial, we want to hold on to it. So we start thinking about like all the unknown things that could take it away, but then you're not honoring the place of where it originated.
It's such a good point, and it makes me want to find the seed card.
Oh, great.
Because here it is.
I have goosebumps.
It's very simple drawing, but...
Oh my gosh. This is kind of, okay, visually for the listener, it's sort of like the box in the way that there's lines with circles within circles within circles. And in the center of it is a seed.
Which is a pearl.
Oh, it's a pearl. Wonderful. Yeah. Did you see Did you see the Pearl movie in school? Did they show, like on rainy days, did they ever break out a projector and show you the Pearl by Steinbeck, the movie that was made?
No, but I have a Steinbeck, the Pearl story that I'll tell you off camera when we get off this podcast.
Okay, sweet. Thank you.
One of my all-time favorite books, and that book was so influential when I was making this deck because I was obsessed with the image of the pearl. And this was a seed, no pun, but pun intended. I messed that up. Sorry.
No, you didn't.
It was a pun, and an inspiration for the alchemy deck, which came after the archetypes deck. There's a phrase in alchemy called the pearl of great price.
Whoa.
And this was one of my favorite ideas in alchemy that I found thus far, is that it's kind of all in the saying, in the phrase, the pearl of great price. It's like the cost of dealing with the agitation of the sand in the shell.
Yes.
That agitates and agitates, that subtle agitation of the grit of sand for years and years and years and years and years, then becoming the pearl. And so the pearl is priceless, and it also came at a great price.
Wow. Fuck. That's
it's so cool.
So good.
It's so cool. So that's why the pearl is in the seed card as a sort of origin point, just like you're talking about, that there is this like initial sort of agitation or desire or something that rubs in order to get our attention and our creativity to jump on board with the project. And then once the thing goes out in the world, it's easy to lose track of that.
Right. So are the circles within circles, all leading up to the center being the pearl there, is that showing the process of agitation?
Well, no, I think this was more like, I was thinking about both the inside of a tree when you slice a tree.
Yeah.
And also a sort of reverberation.
Oh, cool. Going out.
The going out, that the seed, and it has to sort of be held by it has to be held and nurtured by something. But in a lot of these cards, I was trying to find like, what's a really neutral way I can express this concept without pointing people in too specific of a direction. So it becomes way more of like a diving board for their own experience than like me telling them exactly what the seed is. It's like trying to capture the resonance. That sounds very like flaky, but the frequency of the thing, and not doing any more in order to service my ego as a good artist who can draw well. Because like, this is not reflecting my drawing skills. It is in the focus of drawing the circles, but like there's nothing, I'm not flexing here.
Yeah. Yeah. But I will say conceptually you are flexing, because it's pretty incredible to think about the inside of a tree and the fingerprint sort of nature. How it looks like a fingerprint almost when you cut a tree in half, and all the rings represent years, I guess, or something like that, they say. But to use that as imagery with the pearl in the center as a seed, oh my God. I mean, it is, when you hear about all of what goes into it, I'm not saying you're flexing at all, but it's genius. It really is.
Thanks, Jaymee. It's fun to talk about these cards. I'm like, oh, it kind of makes sense what I was doing, even though it never quite feels that way when I'm in the process of it. But
did you hear that, folks? We're helping Kim Krans right now, the person who's helped us so much. It's fun for her to go through all these again and revisit it. So we're all in multi-beneficial.
Here's a fun one. I don't know how much time we have left, Jaymee, but this weekend we can't miss out on the Anima Mundi, which is the soul of the world. So basically everything hop on board. It's kind of like if you really imagine what Noah's Ark would have to be like to like get all the creatures.
Yeah, it's pretty hilarious to think about that. I've done that. It's
really hilarious.
Yeah.
And every different type of person, and someone who can like, carry on the lineage of Italian cooking, like when we get off the Ark, and someone who knows how to make igloos, and like everyone's on board,
Exactly.
You got worms, you've got potatoes, you've got seeds for, imagine everything that has to be on the Ark.
I mean, it's hypothetical America. It's what... It's like what people in idealism see America as, which unfortunately it's far from the harmony that we're talking about here of the Ark, but it's not away from the danger of why to even build an Ark in the first place. We're sort of in that.
Oh God, I don't like to think about the ark right now and who would be in charge of who lets who on the ark. Thankfully, Noah was non-discriminating. He just let everyone. His job was to make the boat, and everything gets on the boat. So that's how I felt when I was making the Anima Mundi card. Was like, this card is about the soul of the world. So like, how much space do I have?
Yeah. Nice.
Everything's got to get in this card.
Yeah. How would you do that?
It's ridiculously jam-packed.
Okay.
Collaged.
Right. So we've got the star. Okay. So we've got a star that, what's the imagery in the star here? Is this
so many things? There's the symbols of the planets. There's gold and eyes and gems and hands and basically everything that I could stack on there.
Yeah.
Without it falling apart, sort of in terms of the image.
Did you know you had this in you? Because every card feels like an album cover. It's so prolific. The deck itself is prolific.
It's so funny that you say that. When I was at Cooper Union, I was in art class. Okay, this is a funny story.
Awesome.
It's worth going into. I was in drawing class. It was my senior year, and I had done a drawing project of creating 6 drawings a day for 1 year on the same size paper. There were 2,000 drawings at the end. This was my senior show.
Shit.
Like, I still have photos from this and documents of this, but there were 2,000 drawings that I made. My classmates were so sick of this project.
I bet.
I was sick of the project too, but that was part of the experiment, was like, if I draw hundreds of drawings, and I get bored of it, what will I draw next?
Wow. Great question.
Like, I want to run the gasoline out of the machine and then see what are the fumes made of? Like, what happens when I get bored?
Man, this is why we're friends. This is exactly why we're friends.
So, really much to the dismay of my classmates, because every critique for like that whole year, they just had to sit and look at like 80 more drawings they were all on fuchsia paper. And I called the project 2,000 Ways to Change the Fuchsia.
There's the budding comedian.
And no one cared, and no one thought it was funny. They were like, why?
Yeah.
But why? And I was like, because.
Right.
Fuchsia sounds like future. And they were like...
it sounds like they're trying to finish a project and you're trying to learn about yourself.
Well, I don't know what was happening, but they were just mad. I mean, I understand. It was annoying. Repetition is annoying.
Yeah.
It's wearing, and I love it as a mechanism for finding out what's next, what's underneath, after you've really run out of steam,
I will say the repetition is boring if you have somewhere else to be.
Yeah, I mean, repetition, as you know, as a mantra practitioner, this is the basis of like all the things. It's just like, yep, here I am with the mantra again.
You're right. And I've decided I have nowhere other to be than mantra and spiritual practice,
Yeah.
That's the only place
it's Wednesday.
Right. Still eating an apple,
mantra.
Still sitting in the same spot, drinking my tea. I do it every day the same way. My whole thing is like the same every morning. And it's not boring to me because I've decided that I don't have anywhere else to be. There's nothing better to be doing in this world. And also just like when you were cranking all these out in school, there's something more to be learned about ourselves, even in the mundane, especially in the places that we don't think that it is, which a lot of people don't explore,
Well, the reason I bring up the story is because we were sitting in one of these critiques with all of these drawings, and one of my classmates said, this is to get back to a comment you said prior. One of my classmates said, these just look like album covers. Why don't you just like find a band or like be in a band and like just go make album covers? Like, this isn't art.
All right. Did you take offense to that? I mean, did the ego take offense, or was it a good suggestion?
It was meant as a blow.
Right.
Because we were at Cooper Union. That is a fine arts school. Like at that moment, the indie punk music scene hadn't, like, I'll put it this way. The Richter painting hadn't been put, or maybe it just had, on the Sonic Youth album cover yet.
Oh, really? Holy shit.
And that's Gerhard Richter.
Yeah.
I don't know what year that happened, but it would be interesting to go back and look at. It was maybe prior to the comment, but it's like that crossover of like an album cover is high art in a way.
Yeah. Is this Goo we're talking about?
What's that?
Is this Goo, the Sonic Youth record?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
With the candle.
Oh, sorry. Daydream Nation. Yeah. Daydream Nation. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The candle.
I don't know my Sonic Youth albums by title, but I know them by cover.
Image,
so it's the one with the candle.
Yep.
So that painting of the candle of Gerhard Richter is in like, MoMA or something like that.
Gotcha. I never knew that. I never knew the origin of the candle painting in that.
And he was massively, at the sort of peak of his career at that point. So that painting, who knows how many millions of dollars is worth. But it wasn't famous because of Sonic Youth. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's the crossover, there's the exchange.
Right.
And however, this student was saying, like, I don't really belong in art school. I should go make graphics for, bands.
Yeah, right. Oh, okay. That was the intent.
That was the intent. It was a total cut down. And it stuck with me because it hurt. And it stuck with me because it was accurate. My art, I did show in galleries for quite a few years after my, undergrad and grad school. And then when the tarot took off, it was in mainstream culture. Like it's, at Urban Outfitters or Target now.
Yeah.
And so that compared to where my art would be if I had gone a more conventional route in a fine art gallery only, my art would be worth more, like per page would be worth more. And it would likely be in a crate somewhere in storage.
Right.
There's no kid in like Minnesota getting the poet card, getting access to the image.
Oh, wow. What a beautiful image too. We got to talk about that one next. But so is that moment then the sand? Is that the sand getting turned into the pearl?
Yeah, that's agitation. That's dharmic agitation.
Yeah. Or
in like James Hillman lingo, it would be like the daemon, the destiny being stirred by a external comment that actually hurts in a very accurate way of like, oh yeah, you know what? I do want my art on album covers. Like I wanted my art on Bright Eyes covers. I still don't know why. Like, where's Connor Oberst? Like, hello.
He's about to play in Ojai. I think we're going to go see him.
Connor.
So that's essentially, I guess, the love as the author card would be the seed. I mean, I could probably find something in each of them, but so what that phrase means to me is exactly that. It's the seeming agitation of another's comment or something seemingly destructive or hurtful in our life that's developing us into this pearl that'll emerge at some point, and it's the seed of change, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I felt that agitation about tarot decks when I would try to use them when I was younger.
What did you use?
People would give them to me.
Which ones would you go to? Like,
I didn't. I mean, I had the Rider-Waite deck. I had Mother Peace deck. I think those were the only ones I kept as a younger person because I was so annoyed at the way the images were. I always loved the Mother Peace deck, but the other decks agitated me. Like, I would read the book and the meaning of the card and be like, whoa, that is so cool. Right. And then I'd look at the card and be like, what? So I dismissed it and I felt annoyed at it. And then eventually I was like, I just have to make my own. So that agitation is just for the listeners that have like creative inclinations or, notice their agitation with things. Like, that is such a compass for where we can put our efforts and our next project.
It's like agitation is the mother of invention or something. Like, you being agitated at looking at the imagery and having it not match the depth and profundity of what you're finding in the book, that created a mother in you of authoring this deck that now is out there and people can relate to. And there's such a connection between what we find in the booklet of the descriptions of each card and the imagery that there doesn't seem like there's any discrepancy there, and it's all accessible. I mean, you made something that might have needed an interpreter before, and usually every tarot deck that I had, I kind of like acted like I knew more than I did around this stuff. And then I'd always be very intrigued to be around somebody who knew more about it. So it felt like that was a missing piece. It needed someone to interpret the interpretation itself, the interpreter needed an interpreter. But in this case, I feel like you've removed that, and that's been the progress of this deck. And it's and most likely it's mainstream success.
Well, I hope that it's a self-revelation. That's always my aim, is that, we can look at the ChatGPT's interpretation of the cards and the tarot and everything. But I really hope that people are able to sustain a relationship with the cards and images so that it becomes something that they know that's beyond what is written in the book that I write or anyone writes, or, that they really find that personal relationship with the work, with the archetype, with the symbol.
Wonderful. Do you remember what card suggests in this deck that you listened to Standing in the Doorway by Bob Dylan?
I wonder if it's The Empty Room.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Oh, right. Because, that record, I don't know. Did you and I talk about Dylan? Because he came up a couple times in this deck, in the Archetypes deck. I feel like there's a couple songs to listen to that you suggest, or maybe references. And that record, Time Out of Mind, which is, I think both of the songs that you suggest are from that record. What was that record, just for a tiny step off for a second? How was that record meaningful to you at that time that it came out? Or when did you catch up with that record, and have it inspire you?
Well, first I should say that during my comedy performance this year, which I will say that you missed it. And the sad part about that is you missed when I was dressed up as Bob Dylan.
Shut up.
And acting as Bob Dylan, and then picking names of famous people out of I had the audience put names into a bucket and different symbols into a bucket and different things. So the whole night was sort of chaotic with these different things coming out of the buckets. And Bob Dylan, me as Bob Dylan, picked Bob Dylan out of the bucket to be the person. I had a phone, so I had this phone and it would ring, and then I would pick the name of the person that was going to be on the other line, and it would be like Snoop Dogg or like Jay-Z or whatever. Yeah. And this was like, I'm Bob Dylan and I'm talking to Bob.
Wow. God, that's so Bob Dylan.
It was so Bob Dylan. And the thing is, I was so excited just as Kim that I couldn't handle it.
Oh, so... You met your match, which is yourself.
I was so happy. I was like, I had to like break character and be like, this is the fucking coolest moment of my whole life.
No kidding. Gosh, how fun. I totally missed it. I so missed it.
That was a moment I wish you would have seen of all the moments.
Totally.
But Bob Dylan, he's like my alter ego, holiday party go-to.
Yeah.
I always love dressing as Bob and being Bob, but that particular album, Standing in the Doorway, Time Out of Mind, that era is like prime late career. It's like not his other, like a lot of other sort of weird phases that I'm willing to roll with. But that record has so much soul and so much, like underbelly grit of having lived.
Yeah.
And it still just carries a lot of beauty in terms of the melodies, and the production.
You also name It's Not Dark Yet. I think It's Not Dark Yet is another song that you suggest that we listen to.
Yeah, I can't remember what those cards are.
Okay.
What they're paired with.
Yeah, that's cool though.
But that whole record, there's some artists and musicians that work with the archetypes and images and symbols, more than others. And Dylan and like a Leonard Cohen they're good examples of that. And you'll see it though in, if you look at really popular songs, usually they'll have an archetypal image at the center of it. It anchors the song, and it also helps us have a visual accompaniment to the song. If you think of like Rihanna's Diamonds or something like that, like the actual archetypal force of like the diamond, the gem, is the anchoring principle. So
I sent you a text today with a diamond in it. The only emoji that I sent. Yep.
Oh, really?
I said this is going to be great, and I just put a diamond.
Oh, great. You and Rihanna.
Yeah. I was just thinking...
She only sends me those texts too.
Well, you live close. You're neighbors now, I imagine. I was just thinking about also one of the unique things about your deck. Once again, long before I knew you, I was thinking, finally, it's like somebody gets me. It's like before, the archetypes are so that we can understand ourselves and understand our world more and others. But usually you don't start off with knowing that the author of the deck gets you so well. And all the references in this of like, hey, go read this from the Tao, or go, all these things. It was like a collection of, wait, I read that book. Wait, I listened to that. Oh, it's like somebody's bringing all these things together that are already in my apartment that I can create like a fort of information out of the things that are already here. This song, that book, that object, this mantra, whatever it may be, So I think that's the uniqueness of your deck.
I mean, that was a big piece that I learned at Pacifica when I was studying Jung, was this idea of amplification. So study the archetype, but find it in the world. And so that I just took that assignment and ran with it. And Jung was using it as a prompt to find it in mythology. So if you're working with the shadow mother archetype or the jealous mother archetype, go find it in mythology. So you would Google search like jealous mother mythology, and you can find it. That's an actual way to do the practice of amplification. But I was like, oh shit, this is my jam. I can find these concepts. It's sort of a knack of mine, is to like see it in different patterns in the world, in pop culture, or in, the arts or literature or what have you, cartoons, or like, if you start to look with a sort of archetypal lens at the world, you can see like, oh, The Simpsons, or it was like, that's the fumes they run on, or the fuel that they run on.
Totally.
And the thing is, they're committed to it. Like, they don't change. Like, Lisa is Lisa.
Right.
Like,
so true.
She stays so committed to her archetype and the objects that confirm her archetype.
Yeah.
So like the saxophone and her like necklace, and just her insistency and love of school and all of that stuff. So, and
they all try. It seems like that's the fun thing about the shows. They try to be other people, but they always end up coming back to being themselves,
Yeah. No, so the archetypes, it's like a gold mine for creative work, and it's really fun to see them reflected in the world.
Yeah, totally.
So I want to go back to your very first ask to look at the artist card.
Oh, awesome.
And I'm remembering now, it's the creator.
Oh, sure. Okay.
It's the creator
Right.
because it's part of the trifecta of creation, the creator, the sustainer, and the destroyer. So that 3-part trifecta, which is the trifecta of
Shiva, Brahma.
existence.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Shiva, Brahma, Shiva, and oh no, we're gonna mess up our.
No, we're gonna get it.
deities.
And no, hold on. Shiva, Brahma.
It's okay. The feminine version is Saraswati,
yes.
Akali, and I want to say Durga, but that's not right.
No. Wait.
Parvati.
Parvati. Yeah. Right.
Is this right?
I think so.
Anyway, the trifecta.
Why are we
Creator,
forgetting
sustainer,
that?
destroyer.
Yeah, why are we forgetting that third one? It's Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu. No? Or
Yeah.
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 Okay. Good. I think so.
We got it. I think we got it.
Okay, right. The trifecta. Okay, so back to that.
So I think that was more open-ended orientation or expression of the artist than calling it the artist. I chose the creator.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to say one thing about the selection of the archetypes in general, because there's so many and there's endless and so many that aren't included in this deck.
Mm-hmm.
So I used the, this just sounds so woo-woo that it's out of control, but
Please.
I used the pendulum to decide what words to use.
Oh, awesome.
Because you have, for example, like you could have a witch card or a crone card. What are you going to call it? Like, what's the most useful, accessible, meaningful word for right now?
Yeah.
So I just made a list of, I think I had 250 archetypes, and I would go through it with the pendulum. Is this helpful for now? Is this helpful for now? Is this helpful for now? And I would ask over and over and over until I had honed down the deck to what now exists, 70 some cards.
Wow. So what would you say if I had to ask about, like, you said that, the archetypes are also things. And so what would social media's archetype be?
So this is slightly discombobulating question.
Mm-hmm.
So social media activates what archetypes, or what is the archetypal force underneath the platforms of social media?
Oh yeah, God, you're right. I don't know. I'd like to know all of that, but you can pick one, whatever's easier to reference in this moment. I know I asked you on the spot.
Well, I think one way to, it's almost like you were asking as if social media is a character or an entity,
Yeah.
and what's its archetype.
Right. I guess, yeah, that's accurate.
So that's really tricky. I would say it's something to do with, and this is built into its name, the platform.
Oh, yeah.
Which is related to the stage.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Which gets very confusing very quickly.
Right. Because all kinds of things can happen on stage.
All kinds of things. Yeah. All of a sudden you've got performance.
Right.
You've got expectation around who's watching. You've got pressure.
Right.
You've got acting. You've got a longing for truth, a longing for connection.
Everything from a play to a press conference happens on stages.
Yeah, it gets very, very disorienting very quickly, especially when we aren't sure what our roles are.
Right.
If we're there to share with our family and suddenly you're being seen by someone you never agreed to have them in your theater.
Yeah.
You were doing your own thing.
Right.
So what do you make your profile private. So you have a private screening in the theater.
Right.
Are people paying to get in?
Yeah.
Are you making money off the performance?
Right.
Is it about the audience and who's there? Is it about building community?
Yeah.
So I think that would be the first archetype I would start with, is that of the stage.
Wow, that's so good. So good. It's nice to just
the platform too.
Yeah, it's nice to have the image. Thank you for taking that dive for a second into that question. Actually, Lacey came up with that question. She was like, will you ask her?
It's such a big question. I was like, no, but sometimes the archetype is in the actual word. So that's how I got there. I was like, oh, well, it's literally a platform.
Right.
And so what is a platform? Well, a platform creates a stage.
Yeah. And even on social media, they're calling them creators rather than artists. So you went with the creator card rather than, making a creator card rather than artist in the same way. What went into the imagery around the creator card?
I think that one was a pure painter in the studio homage.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me anymore.
Oh, okay. It was just a hand with a brush, and it's in the center of. I was wondering about the imagery that's holding it around it, the colors and all that, the rainbow. I guess I just had an image of it in my mind. Sorry to make you look for it. When you flashed it, I was going, yeah, I really want to know about how do you figure out what surrounds some of these images? Like, I know you don't do filler, so.
Well, I have to, because the card has to be filled with something.
Sure.
So, I do have to work with composition, color choices, just like any artist would be wondering, like, well, what is the background here?
Right.
But even with that, I use the pendulum. I would ask, like, does this card want to be blue? Does this card want to be yellow? There was a lot of asking for clarity within this deck, because I was in school for Jungian psychology, and this idea of otherness, that there's something else that wants to be expressing itself. So for me, I'm always running the experiment, like, well, is this true?
Your process around that, the pendulum, it reminds me of, I feel like it's first season of Twin Peaks, where David Lynch is like trying to figure out who to investigate. And I mean, he is his character, Gordon, who's like the FBI chief, and he's hanging out with Cooper, and they're trying to figure out like which of these subjects, where's the direction we should go. And they set up, David Lynch's character says like, oh, there's this old Tibetan method, and he sets up like, I feel like a can or a glass in the distance, and he walks
on the stump.
Yeah, on a stump.
For the listeners, this is so important and amazing that Jaymee's talking about this right now. So just stay tuned for the cliffhanger that's about to occur.
Okay, awesome. So then he stands far away, just like your target practice or something, and he'll say out loud, he says the name of the person. Like, there's 3 suspects. Do we look at Bobby? Do we look at Leo? Do we look at, I forget who the other one is. And so holding 3 different stones, and standing at a far away enough pace from the empty glass bottle on the stump, he says the name of a person. It's like, Bobby, and then throws a thing. And if it hits and connects with the bottle, they know to investigate. So he says names and throws a stone for each person, and then one of them hits and connects and breaks the glass, and they go, oh, that's where we should look. And I think it's Leo, for the nerds out there. But don't come at me, bro, if I get it wrong.
So,
okay, so yes.
Just so you know, I kid you and your listeners not. When I was making this deck, I was so obsessed with that idea and that scene in Twin Peaks.
No way!
That when I was making the cover, I was like, I gotta walk the walk here.
Oh my
I gotta be a Jungian.
Yeah.
I gotta work with synchronicity. I want to be David Lynchian, Twin Peaksian.
Totally.
So I went into the woods and I wrote out 5, 6 maybe ideas for the concept of the cover of the deck.
Yeah.
And I put them in a jar. I put a bottle on a stump. I picked out one concept. It would say like blue cover with ocean, some moon on the cover.
Yeah.
And I would hold the rock and I would say, on the Archetypes deck, should I have a moon on the cover with a blue background? And I would throw the rock. And if it hit the bottle, I was going to do the cover. So the last stone I picked was, for the concept of a diamond with a rainbow around it and hands wrapping around the deck.
Yeah.
And I picked up the stone, I said that out loud, and I threw it and it hit the bottle and it broke. And that is now the cover of the Archetypes deck.
Fucking A, man. That is so cool. That's so cool. That is an image. I haven't even watched Twin Peaks in years. I mean, I
can't believe that you pulled that out.
That's so
it's
amazing.
Really impressive.
I haven't watched in years, and that scene always stood out to me because I remember watching it again. Like I watched Twin Peaks when I was a kid. My parents had it on, and I'm so grateful to that because, of course, there's a lot of other people my age who were watching at that time too, and getting straight in from our TV on primetime television, the deepest and darkest mystic qualities and everyday sort of qualities also of living in this soap opera, dream, nightmare, of a show. And, I saw it then when I was a kid. Of course, the lore followed with me all my years, and I saw his movies. But then, like at a certain point in the last few years, I watched it again, and I as a Tibetan Buddhist, and I'm like, Of course, I didn't make the association when I was younger that there's this Tibetan quality to this scene that he's saying, oh, this is an old Tibetan trick. And I was like, wow, that's so cool that my life has kind of merged in this way of like, now I'm a devoted Vajrayana Buddhist, and this thing that was there all along in my childhood that I've just unearthed again. And so I felt a connection to it. And I think I made a little bend in the page from then, and I have not looked at that image in years, and it was just here,
It's so great. I'm glad that you brought it up.
Fuck.
And maybe you can put that clip in the show notes or something. I think it's episode 4. Like Cooper teaches Tibetan theory or something it's called.
Oh, right.
Because people have clipped that exact moment, exact scene, and it's on the internet. It's like one of the most beautiful scenes, I think, in television. And it's so funny and hilarious at the same time.
Right.
Like Lynch was such a... he had such a sophisticated way with humor.
Yeah. Yep. And even in his most recent, in the last season, which I'm watching again right now, and the first time I saw it, even I loved it, but I think that much like in No Country for Old Men, the Coen Brothers movie, when I first saw it, I wasn't somebody who was in on the joke of not having a resolve handed to me at the end of a film.
Yeah.
And so I kind of stayed up late to watch No Country for Old Men, and then it leaves you in this, you don't know what happens. And I was like so frustrated at the time. Like I waited up late and I'm just going to bed without any answer. And now I crave things that actually don't give me a plot or don't give me an answer. And so this second time of watching the last season of Twin Peaks, the Bardo scene, or where he's like journeying out of the Black Lodge back into where Cooper is, going back into the world, and the in-between that happens there, and all the textures of like fire and space and all this stuff that's happening. That's what I crave now. I crave like things to have texture almost. I don't care about a plot as much as I want them to have like a feeling, I guess.
Yeah. I think that second season for me it felt like a lifetime of setup just to have, I can't remember which episode it was, but it's like 3 or 4 minutes of silence where there's a giant and there's like a ball of gold floating in space.
Yes, exactly.
I think it's probably one of the longest stretches of silence on TV.
Right. I watched it last night. That scene.
It's absurd.
It is absurd how long he will wait. And that's what I love too. I was saying that out loud. Like, I love this, that he just knows that we're going to watch this. Like,
yeah, I when I watched that, I thought, what a place to get to in one's career.
Right.
It felt to me like it's something to aim for as an artist, that I could build the language of my world to such a degree over enough decades that the audience, I might lose some of them, but some of them are willing to stay and watch something unfold with no plot, no language, that we're in like a theta dream together.
Yeah.
And that's the Dharma.
Totally. Yeah. I was thinking last night as I was watching that scene, that particular scene that you're talking about, and that is the one where Cooper is coming back to the earth and he's kind of in this in-between space. Or there's a gigantic fireball that happens, a atomic bomb goes off. And then we kind of journey into the fireball. And when I was watching that, and how willing he was to allow us to go through all this stuff without any characters. It's just all imagery for a no dialogue, long stretch of time, sounds that are jarring, sounds that are like static and all kinds of variations of that. And I was going, I wonder what David Lynch's Bardo is going to be like. I wonder what it was like when he like, what would he have to learn? This is what I started dreaming in that moment. I was going like, what, is this like his Bardo? Because it felt like, I was like, his Bardo would probably be like being on the inside of a cigarette, you know, because he smoked so much. And I was thinking, God, if he had anything to experience in this life outside of this, to learn about it, because he seemed to smoke around other people too who don't smoke. And I don't have any judgment around that. We allow great artists to do that. You know, some people do that and it's a part of their thing, but it's also like, it could easily seem as a form of disrespect to other people's lungs around, you know? And I was going, God, is this like his Bardo? I wonder, would he'd be like in the inside of a cigarette while it's burning, you know, just to experience like, whoa, this is so savage and smoky. And like, you know, if he had anything to learn in between before synthesizing again as a being, it might be that.
I like your Bardo has a little bit of Dante's Inferno, a hit of that, where you're learning the lesson of the life through the way the Bardo expresses itself. I've never thought about it that way, but that's super interesting.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
We just went so far out.
Yeah.
Like we were like really with the archetypes, and now we're just like a whole other journey.
True. And it's cool because this is what I think archetypal work will take you to, places that you don't originally set out for, you know? So it kind of works.
And it will take you into the dream. Like I think some of those symbols that he was working with in that silent passage of the video of the most recent season, they have to have enough resonance to hold during the silence. And that resonance is a big piece of archetypal work and dream work. I'm teaching a new course on dream work online, and we've just started working with these resonant images. And the idea is you can, just by your attention, the images become more resonant. Have more presence, have more detail. And I think Lynch was a real pioneer and game changer, and such an example of setting the bar really high in terms of what can hold power as an image, as an object, like cherry pie in Twin Peaks season 1. Yeah. Like it's alive. It's living, you know, it has a character. It is cast. Like there's a casting agent for the for the cherry pie. And
the woods.
What's so cool. Exactly, in the woods, and the white horse that shows up in the living room,
and whatever that circle is, where the Black Lodge, the doorway of it, it's like that circle of oil, or And
I think what's important about that, at least for me in my work, is that that's a shamanic perspective, that everything. It's animistic perspective, that everything is living and has a soul. And it's so easy to say that, like, that's the perspective of the shaman, that everything has a soul. Everything is ensouled. And you're like, yeah, sure, my mug or my table or my cat or my ring or whatever. It's like, sure, I believe that. But to really believe it and in a sense, practice it. I think David Lynch gave us an example of that. The things come to life. The cherry pie has a fucking vibe.
That's right.
And so does the diner, and so does the portal, and so does the
curtains, the red curtains.
Exactly, the curtains and Bob behind the couch. And so everything is hypercharged, and it gets that way through attention and resonance over time.
Right.
And I think that reflects a life of contemplation of symbols and the dream, which is what he really gifted us, permission to do that.
Completely. We can probably end, but I want to ask you.
We should.
I mean, I could seriously do the whole deck, and maybe we'll do these in a series, but here we are dreaming up things. Like, I don't know why I'm going to want to do another podcast with you next. I just keep wanting to do podcasts with you.
We could do a different deck.
Okay, sweet. Oh, that's fun. Okay, perfect. I want to ask one last question though, and it's not about you, which is fun, but you get to inhabit maybe for a moment, and I'm going to invite you to one, give a critique, and two, inhabit the being of Carl Jung. So what would you say if Carl Jung or Jungian psychology, what do you think Carl Jung would be frustrated about with it? And
that's a great question.
Like, where did
what would Carl Jung be frustrated about Jungian psychology?
Yes. Well, like when he's dying, he's like, I wish I had said this or figured this part out of it, that kind of thing. Or what, like, Bill Wilson, a founder of AA, found 20 years in that there was this component of the 12 steps that were not reaching the depths of where the ache was. It had solved a lot of the issues, but it hadn't created this emotional intelligence or emotional sobriety. And he took LSD in clinical settings as a potential cure for alcoholism. So the mind of the person who created the AA later on, 20 years in, after its inception and it being this thing that really helped people, he was still not satisfied. And there's a creator in him, maybe, or a box breaker that was in there still going like, how can we get this even better? And after taking psychedelics, he was shunned and then had to close that part of his journey and or whatever. So I think about Jung in the same way. As it's possible that within Jungian psychology, he was like, I just wish there's something, and I don't know what that would be. And so in the same way that you intuited your deck, I just thought I'd ask that place in you what you think about that.
It's a great question. I feel like I'm giving a little bit of a sort of obvious answer because I think it's right within his life. Is that he was secretly making art the whole time. He was a scholar. And he was doing his scholarly things, but then at night, he was for 13 years or 11 years straight making the artwork that now exists as the Red Book.
Oh, wow.
So I think we have the counterpiece to the counterpoint, the additional ingredient to what Jung gave us as a scholar, which is the scholarship only took him so far.
Right.
He needed to work it out. He was painting.
Wow. So it's like we're an extension of the work left done, or that the piece that he might have seen as missing. We get to do that through the art that he was kind of creating at night, you're saying.
He was creating it in secret. No one was supposed to, in secret. He knew supposedly that it would damage his career as a scholar.
Wow.
I mean, he was making some of the trippiest art and having full-on conversations with inner parts, doing basically parts work and making paintings and speaking to these inner entities and making abstract work and some figurative work. And it was not supposed to be seen.
Wow.
And so I think that that secret of Carl Jung's is the secret.
Awesome.
And then the Red Book was published after he died. And now we have it, but still we look at it like, oh, Carl Jung made this accomplished work, the Red Book.
Right.
And we look at it through scholarly lenses as if it like all the images make sense, or this means this and this means that, and this indicates the anima and this indicates the shadow. And it's like the guy was painting.
Yeah. And he was like, we're looking at his diaries, almost like his secret work. And
he's trying to work it out because there's something he couldn't get to in the, patient to therapist dynamic of sitting in the room. Mm-hmm. And I think that's his mystical side, is when he was expressing himself as a painter, when he was writing about the planets, astrology, shamanism, Kundalini, the spirit of the life force moving up the spine. I mean, he has a whole book on Kundalini yoga, and that you know, we're basically living in the first chakra. Like our experience will never get past the first chakra.
Whoa.
I think those are like pockets of Jung that are really, really missing.
Right. And he's inviting us, it's in some way to continue it on. I mean, by leaving.
Yeah, I think so. Huh. And that's why I try to be really broad in my perspective of teaching. Jung is one among many that have learned to work with dreams. You know, the indigenous cultures and shamans have been, you know, dreams have existed for centuries before Jung and centuries after. And it's like, he's like one droplet, and he gave us so much content, but we've got to stay broad. And I think he would want us to stay broad.
Awesome.
And look at different ways to work with symbols, archetypes, dream images. As ultimately, the art making is creative research. We're trying to learn.
Beautiful.
I'm not creating the archetypes deck so I can tell you what these archetypes mean. I'm creating the deck so I can learn a little bit more about what they mean.
Right.
And luckily, I can pass the image that I create, you know, onto you and others that are willing to look at it. But I have to be learning in order for that Shakti or power to be waking up, so that people feel it when they look at the decks.
And you're handing over an offering to someone else's own understanding of themselves. In the same way that you are learning about yourself, you offer not the answer, but the doorway to us all.
It has to be open. If it's closed and fixed, like, people are only going to go with it for so long.
Right. Well said. Beautifully said. And thanks for, man, I'm so glad I asked that question. And
I'm so grateful we pulled out these drawings. It's been so fun to talk.
So fun. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for this conversation. And I always feel a specialness in our connection, and that I feel grateful to be your friend. But today I feel like grateful to have learned from you, and that this is going to go out to other people to listen to, also to be able to benefit in the way that I have, you know, somebody who I'm a devoted spiritual practitioner, and I'm still getting surprised, and I'm inviting the surprise and inviting not knowing because it's so delightful to learn. And you have just blown my mind today in so many ways. So thank you, Kimmy K.
Thanks. It feels good to be in the sort of artist, just talking about my process of making art, because I think in that process, I just feel so much myself. I feel very, very much like a true artist through and through. And it always feels like I'm in my own seat when I'm talking about the drawings. And so it feels good.
Awesome. Enjoy the rest of your day.
The products and the decks are one thing, but the actual like creation of the work is a different side of me. So it feels good to be in that orientation.
Awesome. And very excited to hear about the book that you're working on. Yeah. The personal side of what you do and stories around that. And so we'll look for that. And then is there anything else that you want people to know about?
The dream course for September is open. The August one filled. We've just started our first week of classes this week.
Awesome.
But if folks want to learn how to remember and work with the images in their dreams in a Jungian and creative way, sign up for the course.
Nice.
It's a month long in August.
Okay, sweet. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kim.
So much love.
All my love to you.
Mars says bye.
Bye, Mars.
He just had a great time.
I think we're going to have to release this visually. If you don't, are you down for that? Is that cool?
Well, he wore his bow tie.
Thank you, Mars. He's very reluctant.
He just
ran away.
He just woke up. He was just sleeping next to me the whole time, so he's a little annoyed.
Okay. All right. Enjoy New York, and thank you once again.
Much love.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.